And this video is going to overview how to create goals for yourself when you're still figuring out who yourself even is. How to create kid goals on the way to becoming the GOAT. When I was a teenager, I decided I wanted to be a doctor. And at about age 15, I decided I wanted to go to UCLA for medical school. So from ages 15 to 22, my primary goal was getting to UCLA for medical school. All of the things that I did, the decisions that I made, the courses that I took in school, the trips that I went on, the research programs that I did, it was all focused around me getting into UCLA for medical school. And then at 22, I got into UCLA for medical school, and I had to define new goals for myself. The problem with that was I wasn't used to defining goals beyond going to medical school. At that point in my life, saying I wanted to go to a highly prestigious medical school was an outlandish goal that everybody just jumped behind as a way for me to get there. But nobody had really talked to me about what to do once I had achieved this supposedly outlandish goal. Where do I go from here? And I was 20-something when I achieved that goal. So I had a lot of life left to figure out other goals. The easiest thing for me to do at that point was to just choose the goals that my medical school already had for me. But I quickly realized that those goals were not in alignment with who I wanted to be. One of those goals being just do research, create some kind of a research career, do some type of research for yourself. I did so much research that I realized I didn't like research at all. I didn't like the lab-based research or using a bench to do pipetting and all that stuff. Hated it. I didn't enjoy doing qualitative research where I was doing interviews with other people. I didn't enjoy doing research where I was analyzing data and doing like meta-analyses. I didn't like any aspect of research. And so I quickly came to the conclusion that research was not going to be a career and I had no goals within research. Another one of those goals my medical school had was for me to pass all of my licensing exams. I never wanted to actually be a practicing physician, so having a medical license meant nothing to me. It was not valuable for me, and I knew that's not even why I came into medical school. So passing a licensing exam meant nothing for me. That was absolutely not a goal that I would have had for myself. Another goal that my medical school had for me that I didn't necessarily have for myself was to match into some type of a residency program to continue and or finish my medical training. I never wanted to be a physician. I never intended to practice medicine in the first place. And so there was no desire of my own to do any type of a residency program, to match into any type of a program. And so a lot of the things that were requested and required of me to become a candidate who could match into a program were just things that were not things I wanted to do, were honestly against who I saw myself as a person. And a lot of that misalignment of values and identity and goals led me to feeling isolated, especially from my classmates who really were focused and driven by having these goals. Me feeling like I didn't have any goals made me feel isolated and made me want to isolate from my classmates even further. It also led me to a lot of feelings of hopelessness where I was thinking, okay, well, maybe 22 was my pinnacle, and from here it's just downhill from there. There's no other goal that I'm going to be able to accomplish that's going to be higher than this goal that I've already accomplished. And so what is my entire purpose of being here in the first place? Like, I'm really not excited to try to do anything else in the world. It also made me fearful of trying anything new, of recognizing, okay, well, I don't even know where to start if I am to try something new. And so I don't want to try something new. Forcing myself into just continuing on with the things that I had already done that weren't necessarily leading to great outcomes. But because I was so fearful of doing something where it was completely unknown, I allowed myself to stay in that space. It led me to dread going to class in the first place. This was a goal that I had had for at least 7 years of my life. And within a short period of time, I got to a space where I dreaded going to class. I dreaded being asked any questions, whether that was about my future or whether that was about some type of medical question. I didn't want to be asked anything. I was dreading being communicated with. I was dreading having to show up as myself because I didn't know really who I was or what I was going to be showing up as. So I dreaded having to show up in the first place. And for me, I think the biggest frustration was that I felt disinterested. I felt disengaged from the curriculum. I didn't care to learn anymore, where something that had been such a dream and a goal of mine, I got to a point where I didn't even want to open a book and study. Not necessarily because I didn't think I could study or I could pass the test, but because I genuinely wasn't even interested in trying in the first place. And all of those feelings led me to a diagnosis of depression. A lot of that experience of depression also came with suicidal ideations, where I would think I was doing okay, and then I would come to dread waking up in the morning, and then I would think about why I even needed to wake up in the morning. And I realized by having access to therapy and having access to a lot of other different tools for coping and getting through it, that the biggest issue was my misalignment with my values and where I was placed. And so I had to do a deep dive of acknowledging I could either continue on in this path and try to continue doing something where, I have a lot of familiarity, but I don't want to be here at all. Or I could step off of this train, potentially find a new train, but really have to at least sit at the tracks for a little bit before another train comes along, where I'm having to understand, what train am I even going to hop on if another train comes along? Am I going to just hop on the first train that comes, or am I really going to be a lot more intentional in how I'm choosing the train that I want to hop on next? What are the things that I'm going to be looking for in any train that I hop on? I also had to acknowledge, literally, I was starting over, and so this process was going to be rough. Hopping onto that train the first time, I might scratch a couple knees, might get dings and bumps here and there. It's not going to be a shoop, just hop onto the train. It's going to be rough, and having to acknowledge and accept that the roughness was part of what I'm choosing to do for myself. And this is not something that I have to take. I'm choosing to. And so if this is something that I'm choosing, these are things that I'm accepting as part of the process that I'm choosing. Part of that accepting that things were going to be rough was taking myself out of visualizing myself as an expert or somebody who's gotten so proficient, really good at doing this, to somebody who's like literally just starting out, somebody who's a child again, who really is a kid. I went from being the greatest of all time, somebody who went straight from undergrad to medical school, to becoming a child, to becoming somebody who's like, who am I? What do I want in the future? Who do I want to be when I grow up? Even though maybe I'm grown up, I don't really know. But I had to acknowledge that this was the mindset that I was sitting in, whether it was my fault or not. I don't feel like an expert in this space. And so I can't hold myself to acting like an expert, to having the outcomes of being an expert, because I'm not there yet. And if I don't adapt my mindset to understanding the outcomes that it is for the level I'm on, instead of the level that I would like to be, I'm just going to keep hating myself, being frustrated with myself, being doubtful, being fearful, dreading waking up in the morning, not having any purpose of what I'm doing, feeling the exact same feelings that I'm already feeling. And I knew more than anything, I didn't want that. So the goals that I have for when I'm a kid on my way to becoming a goat are going to be very different from the goals that I have once I am a goat. Or the goals that I have when I'm just starting out, figuring out how to do something for the first time, are going to be different from the goals that I have for myself when I feel comfortable, when I feel like I've somewhat mastered the space that I'm on, and I'm able to challenge myself even further. So let's say you have a goal of wanting to be nicer. You've never really been seen as nice, and you know that you have room to grow where you could be a nicer person. It's also not something you've ever really attempted to be before, so you really don't know what you're trying to do by saying, I want to be nicer, or I have a goal of being nicer. Now, the first thing a kid goal is knowledgeable. And when I say knowledgeable, I don't mean like I know what the definition of nice is. I mean like knowledgeable about why this is a goal of yours in the first place. You did 3 things. First off, you did your research. So you've heard other people say, yeah, you could be nicer. You've assessed what it makes for somebody to be nice. You've done your research about what is defined as a nice person, and you've recognized that that wasn't just that one person deciding that I made them feel bad. Like, no, this is pretty consistent across the board. I'm not necessarily perceived as a nice person, and I've done my research. The second thing you did is you did your work. So you have the honesty, you have the tools to be honest with yourself about, okay, I'm not an honest person. And this isn't I don't need to be nice because other people aren't nice to me and the world's not nice, so just get used to it. Nobody's nice. This is more of I'm not perceived as nice because the actions that I do take that other people perceive as mean are more so meant for my own self-protection, whether that's protecting my emotions, whether that's literally protecting my physical safety. This is to some extent some form of protection of myself that other people perceive as being mean or not being nice. So I know I've done my work and I understand how these actions could be seen as something other than what I intended them to be seen. And thirdly, I've done my time. So I've actually spent time recognizing that things are not going to happen in any kind of timely manner that I decide, but they're going to happen on the time that they are supposed to happen under. I have done my time to know that things don't happen on my time. I can want things to happen on my time all I want. Things are going to happen as they're supposed to happen. So the first part of having a kid goal is creating a goal that is knowledgeable. The second part about creating a kid goal is creating a goal that is inspiring, whether that's inspiring to you or inspiring to somebody else. So again, if you have a goal of being nicer, why do you want to be nicer? Do you want to do this because you recognize and it makes you feel better when you're nicer to other people? Do you recognize that other people feel better when you're nicer to other people? Do you recognize that this creates an incentive for other people to be nice to other people because they like the way that it makes them feel? Do you recognize that me being nicer just sets a whole tone for the world of being nice, and I don't want to put out more of the negative energy that I receive? I'd rather at least be something different than what the rest of the world is seeing, and so I'm going to be nice for that reason. But for whatever reason that you choose, a kid goal is a goal that is inspiring. It's a goal that gives you life. It makes you feel more willing, more joyous, more excited to get up in the morning. It's a goal that makes you say, like, I love this for me. And not I love that I will be nicer. I love the process of becoming nicer. I love this for me. This is something that makes me want to try even further. This is a goal that is inspiring. And another thing a kid goal will be is directional. This is not, okay, I want to be nicer eventually. This has an actual timeline of a start to an end date. So, okay, I would like to be nicer. How do I make that more specific? I would like to be nicer to 5 people today. What does it mean to be nicer to 5 people today? Okay, I'm going to compliment 5 people that I interact with today. The more specific you can get about what actions you're actually going to take to achieve this outcome or this goal that you have for yourself, the easier it is for you to keep track of whether or not you're making progress on it. So get it to be as specific, as detailed as you can, while still having some type of a timeline of when you're going to make it happen. These are also things that have some type of a game plan. So it's, okay, I'm going to compliment 5 people by lunch today. How am I going to do that? Okay, well, I know at lunchtime, everyone else is kind of off, and so this is a time where I can really talk to other people. Maybe if I'm not on my phone during today's lunch break, I will have time to be able to notice things about other people to give 5 compliments before the end of lunch. I've got some kind of strategy. I've got some kind of game plan for how I'm going to make it happen today. In the timeline that I already set for myself, I would like to make it happen. I've already said how this is going to happen. But these plans are also adaptable. So it's not, okay, I have to find 5 people and you can't find 5 people. You only found 2 people. So you just keep complimenting those 2 people. It's, okay, I recognize that the goal that I had set for myself isn't about to happen. The specificities to approach that goal, they're not what I thought they were going to be. Everyone decided to work home today. So instead of me being able to walk around at lunch and give people compliments, I'm going to have to adapt myself to be able to still get those compliments out, but recognize it's not going to come from person to person, face-to-face interactions. So instead of me giving compliments to people I see passing by, maybe I can send a thank you email or a gratitude email or a pick-me-up email or some kind of email to 5 people who are my coworkers who I know could either use some kind of pick-me-up or are people who I genuinely haven't spent enough time acknowledging how thankful I am for them being in my life in the role that they're playing in the job. So I can do emails instead of giving face-to-face compliments. I'm adaptable. Instead of this being a hard set thing that I must do and holding myself accountable for getting that thing done, and then when it's unable to get done for something that's outside of my control, just shutting down and being frustrated with myself, allowing myself to adapt that goal, recognize, okay, I actually don't have emails for all of the 5 people. I only have 3 of those emails, so I'm going to have to put a pin on 2 of these and make that something that I'm doing tomorrow. Adaptability is not consistently the same thing every single time. It's acknowledging and giving yourself space for something to change acknowledging that it's not always going to happen exactly as you want it to happen. And that is also part of the process of developing the goals, is staying alert and aware and adaptable when things change, that you don't freak out and you don't get overwhelmed and prevent yourself from accomplishing the goal in the first place. In summary, when you're starting out, you can't expect that all of the goals that you're trying to accomplish are helping you become a GOAT. You can't expect that I've never done something before and it's okay that I've never done it. I'm going to be excellent at it the first time I try that. Sometimes that may be the case, but that cannot be your expectation if you're going in trying to become the GOAT at something that you've never done before. You have to give yourself space to adapt, to be something different, to become something different. The goals that you're going to have when you are the GOAT are not the goals that you're going to have on your way to becoming the GOAT. There are certain things that you're going to give yourself flexibility for, lessons that you're going to have to learn on the way to being a GOAT that hopefully you won't still be learning once you are the GOAT, and you're able to adapt your goals based on that. So the goals on the way to becoming a GOAT are goals for the baby GOAT or goals for the kid. The kid goals are knowledgeable, inspiring, and directional. And in my next video, I will be discussing lessons that you have to learn as you're growing from a kid to a GOAT. Thanks for watching.